Yes, indeed, there is music. Hi, Luke. Welcome to the end of January 2024. The last night. Day 31. I did something exciting for the occasion. I changed keys. I figured if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out with a bang on the last day. See how many more wrong notes I can hit than usual. So tonight, hey ho, send channel, welcome. Tonight we're in the key of E minor-ish. Because it's sort of E minor and it's sort of not. So anyway, that's going to be that. Excuse me. Figure to go out. I'm going to play a little. We'll talk a little. I'll play a little, and that'll be the night. I think that's tonight's plan. Most everything's been tinkered with a little bit. Most everything. Bass is the same. The background drone thing from Synth is the same, but it down in E instead of G. Trying to watch this in the Discord activity channel. Okay. That should be interesting. I don't know that I have enough gear around here to watch back. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, that's watch party. That's where I was thinking you were going. Could be an interesting way to attack maybe the distance-EMOM thing that we were talking about last night. Cool. Well, I'm going to play some music, and then we'll get back together and Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. We'd have to do some sort of tricky overlay or backpass thing or something weird like that. Cable access TV. Now, so okay. Send channel. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. The only problem with that is, of course, it's trying to get it on all across the country would be a little trickier, or all around the world. But yeah, I could certainly do it in my local county. Being as that's sort of the business that I'm in, and the local multi-channel cable outlet is one of my clients. I could probably take over the station for an hour and an evening. I would need a whole heck of a crew, but so I'm in Carroll County, Maryland. So that would be the area that if I were going to do a local cable cast, where I would be. What shut down what, Luke? Oh, the Discord. Oh, Philly. Well, that's almost local. Gotcha. I gotcha, Luke. I'll be over in next week. I'll be over in beautiful Lidditz for a couple of days. To visit a client there. So anyway, enough about that. But it's nice to know that there's. So let me ask you before I start to play. We'll In the 95, yeah, we are in the 95 corridor chat almost. I'm off a little bit. You're on it. Luke's off it a little bit. Don't know who else is here. I see a few folks, but are here. Oh shoot. Oh, so what, Sand Channel, what is the electronic music scene like up in Philly? I'm kind of curious. Gotcha. Okay. Well, we can start to explore that kind of stuff. That's something I'm kind of interested in. Don't know that I've ever been on the big screen. Well, welcome Zero. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks, Luke. Sand Channel. Very, very. It's fun to change keys, change sounds, experiment with new notes. So. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. It's been a fun month doing fun things, and I as I mentioned last night, I don't really have a whole lot to show for the process for the month, except for learning more about my stuff, and that was the primary goal. So, just for folks who haven't seen, who may be watching later, or anything like that, I'll do a quick, just a real quick rig rundown, and then I'll play some more. So, starting all the way at the left, we've got Absynth, and of course, this isn't the cool part of the Absynth interface. It's a little harder to get to when you're working in complete control. I had it open the other night. I can't remember what I did. Let's see if here we go. Boom, there we go. There's good old Absynth from 20 years ago. Still working. Only have scotch. Sadiq, welcome. Thanks for coming. Speaking of scotch. Uh-oh. So, anyway, the droney thing in the background is playing a very simple, just octaves, playing the root as a drone. And that's it tonight for that. Pigments is doing a thing, pretty much the same thing it's been doing. Where's the click? There's the thing. So Pigments 5, and as Luke seemed to discover today, that if you have Pigments, previous versions of Pigments 5 is a free upgrade. So this is one of the I think one of the coolest soft synths out there right now. Does so many different things all at once, and the modulation possibilities are just a trip. And on the drums in loop 1 is Polyplex again. That has not changed since last night at all. So, companies aren't your friend camp. Yeah, well, companies are doing what companies have to do, So they're your friend to a point. So I've got Arturia stuff, and I've got most of my software instruments are native instruments, but I've got a smattering of other things. I've got some Arturia and a few specialty things. I've got decent sampler, which I really like. Although I haven't featured it at all this month because the emphasis this month was supposed to be on learning the native instrument stuff or getting more used to the way it works. And David hasn't made that fully NKS compliant yet. But maybe one day. So anyway, the Polyplex is playing the drums, and I'm only doing the basics with it. One of the leads is Mini Freak V. This one. Well, some ways, I think that's true of a lot of things, Sadiq. They're friendly to us if there are benefits. Shoot. We were talking about this bass sound last night, so I was giving the tour. Get back over to the bass itself, which is a Native Instruments. Everything in this little chain is from Native Instruments. This is their Scarby M bass, and then I've got that into into an EQ, a little bit of drive, and I'm only using the left side of that. So that's a dual drive. Dual overdrive pedal emulation, and I've got it panned all the way over to the A side. So it's just doing a little beyond saturation into a little bit of wave folding, and then the drive cranked up a bit, and that goes into just a touch of delay, and then some compression just to tame it all down. And let's see, from there we're into things going on the going over basically I've got over here on the Polybrute there's an arpeggio going. Up here on the Take 5 is a second arpeggio. The Polybrute's kind of panned mostly left, and the Take 5 is panned mostly right, if you're listening in stereo. And then the piano-based lead is coming from the Korg Wave State original version, which is over there. And there's one other arpeggiated part coming from an Op 6, and I don't have a camera over there, and it's kind of a mess at the moment anyway, so I don't want to show that section of the studio yet. This weekend's project, left over from last weekend's project. The other thing I wanted to try and do but didn't have time was change camera angles in here a little bit. And that's definitely something I'm going to set up over the weekend. I have, at least temporarily in my possession, a broadcast quality PTZ camera. I'm going to set that up and play with that a little bit. As far as effects, yes. Effects are either in the box or in the hardware. For instance, the Take 5, both Take 5 and the Polybrute are using some of their own internal effects. The Wave State is, and the Op 6 is. So all the hardware synths are kind of a mixture of their own effects, and then basic reverb, maybe some basic reverb and delay. Actually, no, they're just using their own effects. Except the Polybrute. Polybrute's mixed with Ableton effects. I'm looking at the screen. So Polybrute's the channel that's kind of highlighted at the moment. So the way this is set up, everything's into send C, and send C gets returned so that I can control the synth levels separate from my mic level, and then bring them all up and down as a group. And then so effects send A is reverb, effects send B is delay. And then some things have additional effects on their in their channel. Onyx, welcome. You know, yeah, Onyx, this keyboard is the keyboard is the new Kontrol S MkIII. And there's a lot of things that they really got right, and there's still a couple things that I'm waiting for them to get right. Like if you're looking now, you're seeing default MIDI template, and mapping the default templates over to Ableton is a little squirrely yet, but it'll get taken care of in a future update, I'm certain. Because I know a lot of people are wanting to use that kind of thing, but everything else, like you know, when I'm in, get into something that's got something working, I can go into the mixer, and I've got the mixer. I've got transport control. I can do punch in records either from here or here. And then I can choose between plugins and the DAW, and I can actually show the plugin controls, you know, on the keyboard for anything that is NKS compatible, which basically is most everything from Native Instruments, a few things from Arturia, some other stuff. All right, Sadiq. Have a great evening. Get some rest, buddy. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you tomorrow somewhere, on Discord or something. So anyway, Onyx, yeah, that integration has really gotten pretty tight, and it makes this kind of hybrid performance setup where you're using in the box and hardware synths. I mean, I can control everything right from here if I want to. You know, I kind of set up the arpeggios on these guys, you know, in them, and I set chose the sounds from the op6 and the wave state on the device. But I can play them all from this, you know, from the Kontrol S keyboard. And in fact, I actually get better control of the Take 5 and the Polybrute, and actually all of the synths from this keyboard, because this keyboard is it's got a fantastic polyphonic aftertouch, and you know, that makes a world of difference in control, and especially if you're playing like the op6 or the wave state, which have just their, you know, the little 37 key terrible keyboards that they have on them. You know, they're velocity sensitive, but that's it. And having even just aftertouches makes them a much more playable, much more fun to play. Let's turn these things back on. For instance, this patch that I've got on the wave state right now, which of course you can't see, but it does this interesting crosses between the piano Yeah, they made the new versions are all going to be available in rack mount. So that puts them in a standard 19-inch rack. And which is great. The problem is that in order to do that, they had to cut down on a control or two. And it's not such a big deal on the Op6, but on the wave state, you lose the joystick. And the joystick in the wave state can be fairly important because that's how you do all that crossfading between the four voices, or between the four voice lanes, or whatever it is they call them. And so it's kind of a trade-off there. And I'm looking at the things, and I don't see any way they could have done any differently from the way that they did. It's just kind of disappointing that you had to lose that, because I think they also sized everything down a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't have I'm looking around to see if I have a tape measure handy, because now I'm curious. And I do not see one. Hey Luke, if you've got a tape measure and you're close to your wave state or your Op6, take a measurement, if you would, between say the low F key all the way to the right end of the keyboard, and I'm wondering if that's 19 inches or less. Because I think overall the synth is about 22 inches wide, if I remember correctly. If I had a tape measure handy, I know there's one in the studio somewhere, I just don't know where it is. Measuring, thanks. And so, but I don't see any way that they could have squashed it down really and gotten any other way to do it. So, yeah, science experiments. Any hardware synths I like that do not feature built-in keyboards? Yes. I like the Blofeld module. I opted not to buy one, but I do like it. I love the sound of it. The Hydrasynth in the desktop module is you don't really give up anything in that one, in either of those, except the actual keyboard. Also from Waldorf, back to Waldorf, the Strike FET in the module, in the desktop modules, is nice. I'd be perfectly happy with any of the Cobalts as modules. So the Cobalt, or any of the modals as modules, and they're nice and compact. 17.5 from the outer edge. Okay, so that plus a little bit for flanges, and that's 19 inches. But there would not be room to add anything else unless they really got drastic about the redesign. And I didn't look closely at them because I've already got an original gen. So anyway, back to hardware synths without keys that I like. So any of the modals, Cobalt, Argon, and the new one, the Carbon 8, sounds neat. I think it's awfully pricey, but everything went up this year, in the last couple of years, a lot. So you gonna do the conversions this weekend? Cool. Let's see, other things. I like my Pro 800, my Behringer Pro 800. I just don't have it hooked up at the moment. So there's a number of things, yeah, and then there's some old stuff that worked really well as modules. some of the old Ensoniq keyboards are also available as modules, and they work great as long as you've got a good keyboard to play them. EMU made a whole bunch of really neat modules for a while. The MoFat and that whole series, and they were basically, there was a whole series of them. They were the same guts, just with different proms. And let's see. Iridium. I'd love to have one of those as a module, if I had the money and the space. The problem with modules is with desktop modules is I don't think they necessarily make the best use of real estate. Keyboards I can put on an A-frame stand or some sort of multi-tier stand, and yeah, they take up space, but they're all there and they're kind of controlled. Modules to me don't seem to always work that well. Oh, I know, the Nord modules, the virtual analog things are awesome. Proteus was good. Yep. That was good as a rack mount, and that was part of that. The whole the Proteus, and then that whole related series. Because as I said, they were at a point they all became basically the same hardware. The lead A1, yes, I love the sound of that. Access modules or such, sure, absolutely. I mean, so there's a lot of really good modules out there. The thing is that I'm a piano player, and so I like to be able to reach out and touch and play. So. Yes, and a lot of that YouTube can be your friend. It can also give you great cases of gas. And the other thing is, until very recently, I have not really been really been a soft synth fan, because I didn't like trying to play and then reach up and play with the mouse, and I was like, if they had a good interface and talk to the keyboard and I could control it from the keyboard, and that would be great. And the same really goes of modules too. It's like getting them, getting control of them at your fingertips. Because when I'm playing, I like to be able to play, and have my controls right here. Which is why I really like keyboard synths, like these guys, because I got. Every control is at my fingertips. Every control is at my fingertips. Even my old Korg Kronos that I had. It was all the controls were where I could reach them when I was playing. And yeah, that the Roland, the JVs, they're and the Integra. As modules, we could go on and on. Almost every manufacturer has had some level of great module over the years. Roland did a bunch of them. Korg not so much, and Yamaha never really had a lot of modules. They had the FM stuff as modules, and I will say, as bad as a DX7 or a DX11 was to program, the TX modules were even worse. Although they did have a couple of interesting desktop things. They had a TX7, I think it was called. That was an interesting beast. And they had the TG33. The TG33 was the desktop version of the SY35, so it was their vector synthesis machine. Guitar player key. See, I wish I wish that I had learned to play guitar and then learned to play keyboards, because I make no sense or very little sense of guitars. I mean, I understand conceptually, how it works, but I can't the shapes. I can't remember the shapes. And I know that once if I learn the shapes, then I can work up and down the neck and have the same chord go, the chord go up and down the neck. It just confounds me. I like my notes all laid out in front of me where I can see them all, and keep track of them all. And even so, after all these years, you might have heard I stumble around the keyboard too. I offend them. We have a name for those. They're called blue notes because I blew that note. And I know that in this scale that I'm playing here, I got. See, I even blew that. Should be the key. Should be the scale. But the way I'm playing it in the mode that I'm playing it, I don't want that. I don't want that particularly. Yeah, jazz, exactly. And so, that's it. That's the thing. My progression through music, as far as learning music, it was classical in theory, and then I played jazz, and then I played rock. Make a jazz noise here. Not the greatest patch for jazz noises because that choiry thing comes in. Wait a minute. We do this one. It's a little better. The stuff I was doing in actually the stuff that I was doing in G minor most of the rest of the week. G minor is kind of like my key. It's I'm very comfortable there, and I can play jazzy stuff in G minor all the time. I need to kind of stretch myself out and play some other stuff, but I don't really do jazz anymore. I don't really do rock anymore, and I've moved to what I wanted to play when I first started playing 50 years ago. When I first started playing, the thing that got me into music was electronic music. I heard Wendy Carlos, and I heard Dick Hyman, and I heard a lot of different stuff that was electronic based, and I thought that's what I want to do. And my parents were very encouraging about my wanting to do music, and so we decided that the path to do that was Luke's making me laugh again. The way to do that was to start with piano and learn theory, and so I started. That's what I did, So electronic polka. I have a friend. Had a friend. He's dropped off the planet. Actually, two polka-ish stories. He was the one who introduced me to the idea of the MIDI accordion, and I because I can sort of get through an accordion. I understand the buttons on the, if it's a keyboard accordion. I understand how an accordion works. I can sort of play it. I'm not real good, but I can do it. He would do these. He had this rig that he had modified a couple of accordions, and they were sending MIDI to his rack, and he had all his modules in the rack. And he would go out and do restaurant gigs with this thing. But the polka story, I got another friend, and a fella who I've been friends with, 40-some years, 45 years. He was playing in a band, and they had a gig, and they needed a fill-in on keyboards. And I said, "Well, that's cool. Yeah. Let me know the tunes. I'd like to do a couple rehearsals with the band before we, And he says, "Yeah, cool." So he hands me a bunch of sheet music. Like, all right, I'll go learn this. And I glanced at it, and there's charts and notes and stuff for all the usual suspects in a classic rock band, and he knew that's what I played at the time mostly. So I get home, and I'm going through this stuff, and I'm learning the tunes one at a time, and I get through, and all of a sudden I stumble into a whole section of nothing but polkas. And I'm like, man, you have got to be kidding me. So I get there to the first rehearsal. I've gotten through about half of the material. And I walk into the rehearsal space, and I'm like, Steve, my friend Steve, I tell you, I wish you'd told me about the polkas. And everyone in the band cracked up. And apparently this was a joke they were planning to play on whoever was going to be filling in. The band actually did play polkas at gigs, and there were going to be polkas in the set list the nights that I was going to be filling in, but they actually had an accordion player to do that. But my heart stopped when I saw those. I'm like, cut time and oompa. I don't know. So Techno Welk is that would have been my friend Phil. Techno Welk, absolutely. He played instrumental versions of everything in a semi-schmaltzy style, including classic rock on the accordion. And he put on a fun show. It was a good show. And yeah, I've seen that look on a guitarist's face when they're confronted with sheet music. It's a thing. I also know I've played with a couple of guitarists that their notation skills in real notation, not tab or anything like that. One guy in particular was astounding, and we would he would fill in with one of my bands occasionally, and he was not a rock player, but he could play rock like nobody's business as long as he had it notated and had sheet music for it. And so he would come in and learn the tunes with us. And during the rehearsal, he's furiously scribbling down on staff paper what he's playing, and come to the gig. Because he's only going to play us with us a couple of times, so he's not going to memorize the stuff. Wouldn't expect him to, but he's got his sheet music. Yeah, he is. And like I said, I know a few of them. I know a few guitarists who really they can play sheets, they can play tab. They can play from memory. I have become terrible at reading actual music. marimba part. Yeah. So my nephew is plays marimba, and he gets to travel the world playing marimba for the Air Force, which is kind of cool. He's in Japan right now. That's marimba vibes. That's another interesting instrument to me. The concept of playing four notes with two hands with sticks, and actually, the thing, and being able to change the interval with the sticks with your hands. That's a dexterity that hurts my head thinking about, and I can just imagine I can just imagine how bad that would be for me to try. I can't. I can barely. I can't even play drums. So I play keyboards. That's my thing. So lots of people. There like I say, there are a number of guitar players who can play from real music. And write it, and write real music. So it's not that rare. You just, but it's like bass players. They there's all those stereotypes about everyone in the band. I've the last band that I was in, the bass player, he played from tab. From bass tabs, and I'll tell you, he very rarely got lost. The problem with that, though, was of course at that point where everyone's on iPads or some sort of tablet, and the problem with that is that when something goes wrong. Your notes go away, and then you've got to rely on something. I always had multiple iPads because I have a very difficult time memorizing things. But there were a couple of shows where he couldn't get a good internet connection, and he couldn't get charts loaded, couldn't get tabs loaded. I at least for all my stuff, pretty much everyone else in the band did not rely on internet for loading stuff up during a show. But you live, you learn. Some of us do anyway. So, let's see. Yeah, pretty much up. Winging a prayer time. Yeah. And some people can do it, and some people can't. I'm fair at it in rock. I mean, it's like if it doesn't have, I can get through pretty much any tune except for signature licks, winging it. If it's got a signature lick, I've got to at least, I have to know it. I have to have some sort of note about how the signature lick goes. And then, of course, if I don't use it, I forget it. But, and there's I was trying today to remember one that I had actually memorized, and it wasn't coming to me. So, fortunately, I don't have any of that stuff to do anytime again. Well, maybe. I may end up having to do some playing. Keyboard playing in the new little group that I've got. I wasn't intending to. I was supposed to just be singing in that, but we shall see. The keyboard players works for a software development company, and they've got some super fancy security thing they've come up with, and they're supposed to be rolling it out, and apparently the rollout's not going smoothly, and so he's going to have very little time for the group. He's actually had to back out of a couple other band situations that he was in. So we'll see how that's going to go. We were going to start getting back together once Jamuary ended, and I was done with this commitment that I made to myself. So speaking of winging in a prayer, I'm going to play some more, and the prayer will be that I don't play too many blue notes that aren't on purpose. So here we go. right. Press that button. So I think it's time for January 2024 to end for me. Thank you, Luke. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone. Night, everybody. I think I'm going to call it a wrap. It's been an interesting and fun year. So, looking forward now to the next set of challenges, and we'll see what those end up being. Thank you, Zero. Appreciate it. Yes, bedtime. Bedtime in Baltimore, too. Talk to everybody on the Discords or in comments. I'll throw that up one more time. Click the like, click the subscribe, ring the bell, visit my website, GerenM.net. I hang out a lot on Luke's Synth Seeker Discord. You can find me there almost any time. Also on the Freebeat Discord, sometimes you can find me in Signs of Life, hanging out over there. And I love to take the time to chat and talk, but for now, new challenges. Looking forward to February. So, see y'all later. Thanks.